you can get your ass kicked. Anybody who's talking this shit, that shit, you can get your ass kicked. Anybody who's talking this shit, that shit, you can get your ass kicked.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Rob Griffin Show. I want to thank you so much for being here, and I want to apologize initially for these glasses that I'm wearing. Now, my wife bought these for me, and she said, "Hey, babe, it's going to be great for your image." Now, many of you might have seen my my Instagram page, my TikTok page, where me wearing this and some crazy editing that she did. By the way, shout out to you, Miss Griffin. You did an amazing job. Now, on the video and the editing. Now, these glasses, I don't know, man. Like, they're cool and all. Like, would you rock these? If you would, like, put a comment down below and let me know you would rock these. Because for me, they're really not my type. For me, I'm more of a patriot. You know what I mean? I'm like a more America. Got my screaming eagle shirt on, and check that out, kid. That's like Tom Cruise back in the 80s. They're not Ray-Bans. They're fake. They're just like, we bought these for $5 in a Hollywood gift shop in Hollywood, California, when I took my family out there. But I thought they were cool because I could rep America. Isn't that America? That's straight up America right there. Now, you can't see shit because it's got this image on the glasses, so you can't see, but they look cool. So today's show is going to be really unique, and we're not going to pull any punches. Now, I say that all the time on this podcast. We're not going to pull punches, because the whole reason why I wanted to create this show, because some things need to be said. And so often they're so scared to say the right thing, I think. It's almost like America's been turned upside down. Like, what's wrong is right, what's right is wrong, and I just don't understand that. And so we're going to give you an unfiltered version. Now, I was doing an episode last week. Thanks for all of you who have commented and messaged me about that show. It was the show about the sex industry in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, if you don't know, if you have never been here before, I was an undercover cop in Las Vegas, and I've seen and done a whole lot of crazy shit that you've probably only seen in movies. And as a result of that, I had a lot of crazy stories. So we have one more crazy story for you tonight. So today, we're going to continue that theme of sex crimes. We're going to talk about sex offenders. Now, sex offenders come in many different shapes and sizes, okay? That's funny. Anyway, but more often than not, is someone who got convicted of a sex crime. That could be male and female, by the way. And they are forced to now register as a sex offender. So if you move into a city or a state or a municipality, you have to let them know, hey, I'm a sex offender. I'm one of these guys right here, and I am now in your jurisdiction, and I want to live here. And they will force you to now register, which means you have to fill out this form and contact the state and let everyone know that, hey, you're there. And then what they're going to do now, they're going to put you on a website, the sex offender registry, so the entire neighborhood knows who you are, what you did, and that you live close by them. Now, some people will say that that's cruel and unusual punishment. That's not fair for us to judge these guys. I'm going to tell you something straight up, okay? I like women. I like a certain type of women. And whether or not you lock me up for 5 or 10 years, when I get out of prison, that's still going to be what I like. Now, some of these guys, they're straight up criminals, or as we noted in the last episode, they're pedophiles. What they're trying to do nowadays is they're trying to normalize this behavior. And instead of calling them a pedophile or a sex offender who targets children, they came up with they call nice term called minor attracted person. Now let that sink in for a second, parents. Those of you who have kids, those of you who have daughters and young boys, these scumbags are infatuated with having sexual relations with children. Now, in my mind, that's a freaking death sentence. If you target and or hurt one of my kids, you better leave the freaking planet, because I'm going to find you, and then no one else will. Because homie, don't play that where I come from. Like, you touch kids, you're done. And so these whole normalization of the maps, that's not gonna bode well with the silent majority of America that's out there. They're not going to play that crap. And I'm going to tell you, that's one of the reasons why this movie, we talked about it last week, Sound of Freedom, is exploding in every theater, because Americans are fed up with this shit. They don't want to hear it no more. Now, if you're not familiar with maps, let's talk about a different topic called the age of consent. Now, in the state where I used to work as a police officer in Nevada, it was the age of consent was 16, meaning that if you were an adult person, male or female, and you wanted to have a sexual encounter with an underage person, as long as they were 16 years or older, you couldn't be criminally charged. Okay. I think in some degree, Nevada got it wrong. In fact, I hate to say this, but I kind of agree with California, who said the age of consent should be 18 because that's when we allow people to enter the military. That's why we allow them to buy guns. And if they can't make a decision to go fight for the country, they shouldn't be making a decision to whether or not they should have sex with an adult person. My personal opinion, I'm not here to pass judgment on the states, but I would tell you that I think 18 is a better number. Now, if you look at, I think Texas is 17. I live in Texas now. Happy medium maybe, but I still don't agree. Now, sex offenders come in many shapes and sizes, and I don't mean physical beings. They come in many different classifications. Now, in the state of Nevada, it starts at level 0, and it goes up from 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 4, where you're the worst of the worst. Anyway, in Nevada, if you're a 0, what is a 0? A sex offender 0. That's someone who got drunk, who walked out of a nightclub in Las Vegas or was partying, and he had to relieve himself. He had to go urinate, and he does it behind a building, and someone happens to see him, and he's accidentally exposed himself. If he gets arrested for indecent exposure in the state of Nevada, you could be listed as a sex offender and forced to register for the rest of your life. Now, have I ever arrested anyone for that? I can't recall. But I know that friends of mine that did. And some of these guys, man, they got hammered by the justice system, and now they're on the sex offender registry as a 0. Now, I'm not here to pass judgment, but you probably shouldn't do that. But is that a little tough? Yeah. But anyone who's 1 or above, now the 1s are considered low risk, which means there's not a whole lot of recidivism for them, which means they don't repeat their crime over and over. 2 are a moderate risk. 3 are the scum of the earth. 4 are predators, subhuman, scumbags. They're going to target you. They'll target your loved ones. Watch out. Now, if you haven't Googled recently, I want you to go check your local website and find out, do you have any of these guys living near you? And I would dare say you probably do. In fact, you'll probably be shocked. If you go to your website and you do the sex offender registry search, you're going to be amazed at what you might see. Now, as a patrol officer, we get sent all types of calls, right? Now, I was a go-getter when I was in patrol, meaning I loved extra assignments. I loved stopping vehicles. They used to pick on me. They used to call me Tom 12, that's kind of a funny inside joke about someone who stops too many cars, but he's not a traffic officer. Like, I was that hard-charging police officer, and they called me Tom 12, which I didn't like that. But hey, it meant I was working, right? One of the other things I like to do is I love to process crime scenes. I actually solved a string of burglaries one time by getting a ridge hand print off a window. Now think about this for a minute. Have you ever seen a bad guy look into a house? What do? They put their hands over to block the sun. They put their hands on the window. What happens is they left a ridge print on the window, and I was being a good police officer. I wasn't a detective yet, but I went over there and I saw these freaking ridge hands on the window. And I thought, holy shit, they actually print those at the jail. So I go and I break out my little crime scene kit, and I go over there and I throw some magnetic dust. There's 2 types of dust, right? Magnetic and non-magnetic. And I throw the dust up there, and sure as shit, I get a solid ridge hand print. Do you know that we attached that criminal to 6 burglaries in the city of Henderson because of a ridge hand print that I pulled off of a residential window? Now, I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. I'm saying, though, it's not a bad idea to process a scene. So if you're a police officer and you're listening to this, go that extra mile if you've been given the latitude to do so. Now, some agencies are very strict. They won't allow the cops to process crime scenes. And Henderson was one of the cool ones. They got busy and they needed a crime scene tech, but they didn't have one available. They would send us out there, basically a nerd cop that likes to process scenes. I was that guy. Okay, anyway, so let's fast forward to a story. Now, we get a call that there was a guy, it came out as a 408. Now, you may not know what a 408 is, but a 408 is a drunk person, right? Someone stumbling down the roadway. Now, there's a prominent part of Henderson you take Eastern and go straight up south far till it ends, there's a very affluent community up there. Multi-million-dollar homes. The founder of eBay lives up there, to give you an idea. And he lives in a freaking compound, okay? It's not even a house. It's like a compound. Anyway, we get a call of a 408. Now, I was not on the call. Patrol gets out there, end up stopping this guy, questioning him. And what he starts to tell the story to the patrol officers that are there, the story was he's just a regular guy. He's a waiter. This is kind of what a waiter looks like right there. And he was a waiter, and he was just, on duty at his job. And while he was at work, he meets these nice couple of guys that meet him. And they said, hey, man, do you want to have some cocktails when you get off duty and come up and party with us? And he's like, yeah, why not, right? So these gentlemen were buying very expensive meals. The restaurant itself was not cheap. So normal, regular blue-collar folks like myself probably wouldn't even go there. But anyway, they were there. They were eating and drinking and having a good time. And they invite this waiter to go back to their house. And that's why this whole episode is called Just Another Reason Why You Probably Shouldn't Rape Your Waiter. I can't believe you have to say that. But this particular story, it really rings home. Now, they have great conversation with said waiter. Shortly thereafter, he gets off duty, and they invite him back to their house. Now, this is all hearsay at this point, right? All we have is this drunk guy walking down this particular road, which I won't name the street because I don't want to give that part of the story away, intoxicated, and he tells the patrol officers that he had been sexually assaulted at this house and drugged at this house, and that's why he was intoxicated and stumbling his way home. Okay? And so the investigation is starting to unwind. Detectives are being sent out there. Now, I was not a detective yet. I was still a patrol guy, but I was a crime scene tech. And just so happened this particular evening, all the crime scene techs were all tied up on a homicide we had on the other side of town. So they called me, like, hey, Griffin, can you head up there? Can you handle this processing? And I said, well, what do they need? He goes, well, they're going to test for some prints. I want to do some DNA collection. Now, I had never done DNA collection. So if you don't know what that means, when I say DNA collection, it's a very different type of crime scene. Okay, so DNA collection means you're going to be doing things that are not in the norm when it comes to police work. So I said, well, what type of gear do I need? So they said, hey, I need you to roll over here. We're going to have you meet up with this other unit that has what you need to take to this crime scene. So I go over there, and at the time we had an interim chief, and he was a unique dude. For those of my buddies who used to work with me at Henderson PD, you know what I'm talking about. He was a flamboyant guy from California, and that's all I'm going to say about him. Seemed like a nice guy, just a little bit weird. And he's like, hey, Griffin, I want you to take these over there and go process this crime scene. And I go, take what? And he gives me these glasses. And I look like this. And I look like kind of like something that Elton John would wear, yellow colored lenses. And I go, what are these for? He goes, you're going to go over there. You're going to go process this crime scene. And I go, I can do that. No problem. I processed many crime scenes. I'd be happy to go do that. Okay. So they send me over to this crime scene, and I get to walk into this house. Now, check out this house. Okay. I have a picture of a house here. Now, I walk into this home with my glasses and another little chemical called luminol. If you've ever watched an episode of First 48, you know what I'm talking about when I say luminol. Now, this guy had a house that looked like the house in Scarface. Like it had one of these big staircases, like a big dual staircase that goes up, and there's an upper level up here. And I will never forget it. You walk into the front door, like the door was massive with a big cast iron shit on the outside, right? And it took like two hands to pull this door open. And there was this massive like living room, fireplace / kitchen. And over here on the left-hand side, there was a guest bedroom that looked like a room right out of a model. Like, you ever tour a model home where they got everything just looks perfect and clean? And I get sent there, and I meet the detective, and there's, now granted, the suspect, who just happened to be should I say this? He was a doctor, and some of the other suspects, which were friends with his, were all kind of being treated with kid gloves at the time, because we didn't really know what we had at this point, right? So they had the homeowner detained, And I can't recall if they had a search warrant or we had consent. Either way, more often than not, if we're hitting the house to get DNA, we're doing a search warrant. Okay. And since I was not the detective on scene, I can't tell you if they had a search warrant or if they had consent from the owner. There's two ways we can search a house, right? Cops show up at your house, they knock on your door. You can say, hey, man, will you give us permission to search? You can say yes, or you can say no. Pound sand, get the F out of here, right? Or if they have a search warrant, they're kicking in your door. They're coming no matter what you say, right? So I get sent to this house, and they say, well, what the victim is telling us, that he was there having cocktails in the same little living area that I was now standing. I can see the doctor and the other, I guess we'll call them co-defendants at this point, that were sitting there. And there were a couple of detectives chatting with them, but I'm just a lowly patrol officer, so I didn't get in their business. They said, hey, Griffin, I want you to go process this scene over here. And I said, sure. So I go out and I get my little Elton John-ish glasses, right? They look like this, like that, or like that. Sorry, over this side. They look like Elton John glasses, and I put them on. And they have this spray. It's in a bottle. It's like a liquid. It's clear. You can't see anything. And then you have this alternate light source. It's like a blue light. So you go in the room, and I literally walk in the room, guys, and I'm in there for just a few minutes. I'm perusing this room, and I don't really see any evidence of a crime. I literally am in a room that looks like a model home. Probably a queen size bed, small bathroom on the right. If you're facing the bed, you can see outside of the driveway. So it had windows, very expensive comforter on the bed, designer pillows, all this kind of, it looks like a model home. Like there's no crime that had happened here. I said, but I have to do my job. So, all right, guys, get everybody out of the room. I'm going to go in here and do my thing. So I go in there with the spray. It's luminol. Go watch the first 48. You know what I'm talking about. And I start, I'm just spraying the pillows, the mattresses, the floors. Now, granted, it won't harm the mattress, the comforter. It won't harm anything. It'll eventually dry up and you won't even know it was there, right? So I'm spraying over everything. I put my freaking Elton John glasses on, and I turn on my blue light. And that's when the graphic, gnarly shit happens. like, I kid you not, man. It was striking to me. It was like so over the top gross that I can't really explain it. So I found this image online. Now, this is a homicide scene where a detective processed a very graphic murder. Now, look at this picture, okay? Everything that's glowing in the dark is a human fluid. That could be blood, it could be semen, it could be sweat, it could be a lot of things. But once you put luminol on it, it glows in the dark when you use the glasses and the alternate light source, okay? So I start talking to the detectives, and I say, hey, what did this guy say happened? Where do I need to look specifically? And the victim of the crime tells me, tells the detective, at least his intoxicated story, that he met these guys at the bar. They took him back to the house. They slipped something in his drink. And next thing you know, he was unconscious. He doesn't really remember how he ended up in the bedroom, but he remembers waking up with his hands tied to the bedpost, his feet tied to the footrest of the bed. And this really nice doctor was now having intercourse with him. And on the side of the bed were the two friends who were masturbating. Now listen to me, guys. Imagine you went to have cocktails with a couple of dudes. Next thing you know, you wake up in a bed, tethered, arms, legs. You're being violated in the worst way that any man can imagine, right? And then you have these other two dudes that are like pleasuring themselves on either side of your head at the exact same time when you come to. Like, can you imagine? Like, I can't even wrap my head around what that must have felt like. But this is the story he's telling us. And of course, at the point of this time, we're at this $5 million house with, the freaking Scarface stairways, and no one's really buying any of this shit until I walked into that room with my luminol. I'm just spraying it everywhere, man. And I'm just, thinking, we're not going to find anything. It looks pretty good. Anyway, I shut off all the lights, put on my glasses. I'll simulate putting my little orange or yellow glasses on. Bing! And I turn on the blue light. And I'm looking around and I'm like, oh my God. This is obviously not the first time they had done this. Like, there was so much freaking spooge and human fluids in that room that it was uncanny. Like, it almost looked like they were pouring it out in bucket loads. Like, I showed you a picture of that crime scene, right? I'll show it again. And it was like this, but imagine a bed that had puddle, puddle, puddle. 2 guys on the side, 1 in the middle, and there was shit everywhere. I mean, even included footprints walking to the bathroom that were covered in fluids and tracks into the bathroom, into the sink. It was just uncanny. The amount of nasty, disgusting shit that I could see. And I remember thinking, I got to collect a DNA sample. And I'm like tiptoeing around in my patrol uniform. And I go get my evidence collection kit. I get a little swab. They have these little swabs that go into a little, like a glass tube, almost like where you put your blood in for a blood draw. It looks like that. So you do a little swab, put it in there to seal it, lock in an evidence envelope, sign it, tape it. So there's the chain of custody and all that stuff, right? So I'm collecting my DNA samples. And I'm coming out of the room like this. And the detective's like, hey, so what'd you find? I go, dude, like, this is probably the worst thing I've ever seen as far as a crime scene that didn't look like it was there, but it's really there. So the detective didn't believe me at the time. I think one of them was Felicia. Miss you, love you. Anyway, I say, put these glasses on, go in there, shine this light, and you will see for yourself. And one after one, I send the detectives in there, and they come out of the room like petrified. Like, I need to wash my hands. I need to take a shower. It was one of the most graphic things that I have ever seen. And it was pretty brutally gross. Now, imagine this guy's a waiter. He's at a restaurant serving his customers. Next thing you know, he ends up at this $5 million house with their big circle staircase like Scarface. And he's now being drugged and now victimized in a crime scene that is epic level. And I remember walking out of there collecting my DNA. And it's like, can I leave now? And here's what we found out after the fact. Sure enough, waiter gets slipped a roofie or some type of drink. Next thing you know, the detectives end up arresting this physician. I'm pretty sure they arrested the other guys as well and started prosecuting them. But here's the irony. Here's why you should never rape your waiter. The irony behind all this is so epic, because here's what we found out after the fact. The waiter was not heterosexual. He was a gay man, but he was HIV positive. And living with it at that time, still had a full-time job doing his thing. But shame on you, doctor. Shame on you guys who pleasured yourself next to this man, because karma catches up with you, and karma is a bitch. It really is. So I would ask you to don't be a criminal. Don't be a shithead. Don't be one of those bad people in the world, because ultimately, it's really, really, really going to catch up with you. So I'm going to give a big shout out to my good friend Jace, aka Neocore, for that opening track. Love it, buddy. That was awesome. And I'm going to give a big shout out to the guy who's done most of the music for my episodes, the one and only Mr. Aaron Michael. And I'm going to leave this episode with him. Do me a favor. Please like and subscribe to the show. Find us on Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere you can download a podcast. Until next week, God bless each and every one of you, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.
I never imagined a love like yours. Through all the endless nights, you were the one I was searching for, looking for the one that was worth it, yeah. And all this time, you were right here by my side.